Drew Barrymore had already decided she wanted to break the writer's strike and bring her daily talk show back on, which I sort of barely knew existed anyway, but she was the first to break the seal and become a scab. Now we have another individual, another real scab here in Bill Maher. Put this back up on the screen. Real time. Coming back. Unfortunately, Sans writers are writing. It's been 5 months, and it is time to bring people back to work. The writers have important issues that I sympathize with and hope they are addressed to their satisfaction. But they are not the only people with issues, problems, and concerns. Despite some assistance from me, much of the staff is struggling mightily. We all were hopeful this would come to an end after Labor Day, but that day has come and gone, and there still seems to be nothing happening. I love my writers. I'm one of them. But I'm not prepared to lose an entire year and see so many below-the-line people suffer so much. I will honor the spirit of the strike by not doing a monologue dust piece, new rules, or editorial, the written pieces that I am so proud of on Real Time. And I'll say it up front to the audience, the show I'll be doing without my writers will not be as good as our normal show, full stop. But at the heart of the show is an off-the-cuff panel discussion that aims to cut through the bullshit, predictable partisanship, and that will continue. The show will not disappoint. Very similar to some of the comments that he made recently that we covered. What he was with Jim Gaffigan, I think, and he was talking to him about the writer's strike, and it sounded very similar to what this justification is here. But ultimately, I mean, this is a devastating blow to the writers because he is so prominent. And the more shows that you have and the more prominent, famous, wealthy personalities you have that are willing to cross the picket line and become scabs and break the strike, the easier it is for other shows to follow suit. So, you know, I see this as truly devastating. And he seems to place, what really bothers me about this statement is he seems to place the onus of the burden of the fact that there's been a shutdown for so long on the writers rather than saying a word about the studios, who explicitly at the start of this said, hey, we're going to starve these people out. We're going to make sure they're losing their homes and getting kicked out of their apartments. That's our strategy. And you don't have a word of criticism for them. You're putting all the blame on the writers who are trying to just be able to like eke out a living now and into the future. Just disgraceful.
Another thing I thought, which was weird, is that he says at the heart of the show is an off-the-cuff panel discussion that aims to cut through the bullshit and predictable partisanship. You have a podcast. It's called Club Random. You've been doing it.
Right.
You actually have panels. They had Tarantino. I actually watched that one. The one with Tarantino and I forget. I think it was Judd Apatow. The three of them like talking over whiskey. I loved it. That was really interesting. That said, it's like, well, if the heart of the show is that, you already have it. And you don't have to do that by crossing the picket line or any of that. Now, look, I think it's clear that he feels bad for, let's say, the camera guys or any of the other people who are impacted by this. I also feel very bad for them too. But I haven't seen any of those people come out and demand an end to the strike. A lot of those people are union. They're in a different union.
Right.
So they're, I mean, from what I understand, very much in solidarity with what's happening with the writers. So overall, very puzzling. Let's also see if they do what the Drew Barrymore show has been doing, where they're like searching people's bags for pro-WGA buttons. It's
kicking people out who are wearing like, you know, pro-union merch.
What? Like, what are we doing here? The whole thing is, and also Drew Barrymore. You don't have, you better child star. You were an E.T. We're just talking about aliens. You don't have enough money that you got. It's like, what are we doing here?
Listen, I also have a lot of sympathy for, as he says, the other below-the-line people who, you know, depend on this work, and it's important, like, huge sympathy for them. And I'm not going to pretend that there's no cost there whatsoever. But again, whose fault is it that they're still out on strike? It's the fault of the studios that will not come to the table and give them a decent deal that they could then say, okay, we're good with this, let's move forward. It's not the writer's fault. They are just trying to secure the basics of a living. And remember what Bill said, which was even worse than, you know, my irritation with this statement, is he said something like these writers, they think they are owed a living and they're not.
Right.
I mean, to me, that really gave away the game of, you know, a level of contempt, a level of being disconnected from what the reality of your regular, there's a lot of regular, like, paycheck to paycheck working folk in Hollywood. And so for you to say, oh, they just don't even deserve to make a living, you know, you put it at the times that you're like, listen, if you're like turning in your first script and you've never done this before, okay, well, we're talking about union members. We're talking about people who this is their job and their career and they've been putting in the time and doing the work for a long, yes, of course they deserve a living. So it's just very disappointing to see, because I genuinely think it is a big blow to the leverage and ability of writers to be able to strike a deal. And remember, part of what they're fighting is there's a huge technological revolution that we are right now on the brink of, where these studios want to be able to use ChatGPT or other AI to generate first scripts and then bring writers on after the fact to just do polish work at a much lower rate and for many fewer hours and be a lot less integral, and just basically like strip as much of the humanity and creativity out of these shows and movies and out of film production overall. So this is something that we all have a stake in, and to me, it's just really disgraceful to scab like this and have such an impact in terms of trying to break this strike. Yeah. I think it's really going to have an impact, and that's unfortunate.
The real question is how many guests is he going to get who are willing
I'm wondering about that too.
Who are actually willing to go ahead and participate in this. I would be very curious to see how that
Yeah,
goes.
he won't have any trouble getting like his conservative guests,
sure,
who don't really support unions to start with. But if you're like a Democratic politician and you're thinking of going on Bill Maher right now, if you are anyone who considers yourself to be, at all supportive of unions or left of center or liberal or whatever, and you're thinking of going on that show,
Yes.
Nope.
Agreed.
We'll be watching carefully.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Like I said, the UFO report is out. I've got it in front of me. I'll be doing a reaction just in a little bit. But thank you all so much to the premium subscribers who enable the focus group. It was a really fun week. It was a big week for us to be able to do that. And you guys mean the world to all of us. And so breakingpoints.com will have that full focus group special out for all of you later today. And then tomorrow for everybody else on the public feed. We'll see you all on Monday.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.